Hey guys, before you get into the episode, this is Sean letting you know that I'm officially a brand ambassador for Lift Life. Lift Life is a fitness brand that focuses on selling fitness apparel and fitness equipment for all your workout needs. And what makes them so distinguishable from the rest of the brand is their ability to take street trends and implement them into their line of work. And honestly, I've been a fan of all the things that they have. It's been amazing, and I want you guys to be part of the experience. So if you go check out at the bottom of the description, you will see a link to Lift Life. And if you purchase now, you get to use my code, the Safe Room, to get 10% off your purchase. So make sure you go check out the link and make sure you again use the code, the Safe Room, to get 10% off your purchase. I know it changed my life, and I hope it changes your life as well. Now, on to the episode. What is up, everyone? I am back with another episode. Welcome to the Safe Room. I'm your host, the President Sean Williams, and we're back with another episode. As I mentioned, as I'm not feeling good, I'm not gonna lie with you. The Jays won today, but the Red Sox defeated the Washington Nationals. Very upset, very upset. But we're gonna look past through that because today we have a very interesting conversation. Now, I don't know if you guys were aware about what happened to Annamie Paul and how she resigned from the Green Party of Canada. So I want to get into that because it got me thinking about this theory. And again, this is just only a theory, so don't take it faint of heart, okay? I could be wrong, but one thing I like to do, I like to just shoot my shot. Maybe it's something that's on my mind I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about it. So I want to talk about this concept of the forbidden door. Now, you're probably wondering, the forbidden door, like, Sean, what are you talking about? Now, look, I'm not going to lie. I did not think about this my own. This concept actually came to be from something I heard from All Elite Wrestling. So, hey, by the way, any wrestling fans out there, y'all still watch wrestling? Like WWE and stuff. First of all, WWE is not even like good at this point. The product is terrible. AEW, All Elite Wrestling, that's where it's at. But so All Elite Wrestling kind of coined the term the forbidden door. More specifically, Tony Khan. He's kind of like the father figure of AEW. And basically, what he defines the forbidden door, it was basically a way for wrestlers from different promotions to come on, his program and, wrestle, whether it's people from, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, Impact. Like, I feel like if you're not a wrestling fan, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying, but if you are, then you completely get what I'm going through. But the reason I mentioned the forbidden door, because I kind of feel that's where it's at, where it comes to politics. I feel like there is this forbidden door where, people, especially if you're someone who wants to pursue a career in politics, you get to, like, enter in this realm where there's so many different things that you can do, specifically, whether it's, work within the House of Commons or be part of a political party. And that's kind of what I want to focus on today. And really the case study is Annamie Paul. I feel like something's up. Like, something is definitely up in the manner of, she just joined the Green Party and she's now resigning. Like, it was probably like, what, a year and a half's time. She didn't really have a long tenure. And it got me thinking about, like, what could possibly be the case for that? Like, sure, political party leaders get kicked out. We've seen it in history, but it was something about this one, especially had like a lot of significance and, questioning behind it because she's black. And I think for anyone listening, we know the history between, the black population and just partisan politics. How does that work out? For the longest while, black people were fighting for voting rights. Black men at one point were fighting, and for Black women, it was even harder. It's led to different, feminist movements, the suffrage movement that happened in Canada as well, and it became difficult. It was more than just like, we want our political right to vote, but also, for those who want to actually run for position in office, it became difficult as well. I know Canada, with their toxic history, they struggled at a point to say, you know what, like, should we even have like Black leaders? Should we really have like Black people the right to vote? Like, this was a real debate, and really at the point things were getting so like convoluted. So we know the history aspect from there. So when you see from the past and you look to the present now, and you see like how everything's changed, we have so many Black Canadian leaders, whether it's within politics or within our own communities as well. I mean, you probably know someone who has such an impact on said community, or really has an impact in a certain district in Canada, which is great. And that was not the case before, because again, there was that distinct, negative relationship when it came to the Black population and within politics, whether it's you accessing your right to vote, or for those who wanted to advocate against, anti-Black racism or voting rights against Black people with a position in office. So you fast forward to now, and surprisingly, nothing has changed, in my opinion. I feel like despite, being a increase in Black leadership, there's still this like forbidden door aspect where, leaders are kind of struggling still to like find their footsteps, especially if, you're someone who doesn't have that much experience in politics. Maybe you're someone who works in the community, has had so much experience, whether it's mentorship or running, businesses, nonprofit organizations, or different community initiatives. And maybe you want to tell yourself that, hey, I want to kind of like develop more in the political field and try something there. Well, that's cool, but obviously you probably lack that political experience. So when you step in there, it becomes difficult. It's more than just like, okay, I'm trying to make more significant change to a bigger population, a bigger platform, but now I have to familiarize myself within said field. So that's like double work. And that's what Annamie Paul is at this point. I mean, for people who don't know, she works mostly like in terms of like international public affairs. Like, that was like her bread and butter. Like, that was the type of stuff that she was used to. She was used to traveling around the world, going to different places, and, working on public policy. And obviously public policy is a very crucial thing for any country and its government, and the structure of how, certain entities behave, whether it's businesses, nonprofit organizations, like I mentioned, and just really controls like the standard of the political economy and society. But overall, Annamie, like, she didn't really have that much political experience in partisan politics. So when the snap election came, it really kind of felt like a adrenaline rush to her, because it's like, oh wow, like, I just came on and now there's this snap election, so I don't know what to do, and it becomes tricky. And again, I think that's where the forbidden door comes in. I think she recognized the fact that I'm stepping into something that I have no like familiarity with. I don't know that much. So I'm expecting some, trials and tribulations. I'm expecting the different obstacles and barriers. But at the same time, I felt like she also didn't really take in the aspect of what is actually like what more is behind the door. Not just only like, oh, the different obstacles in terms of like you run a political party or like support. I think it was more of the bigger picture about what politics kind of represent. Now again, what I could be saying could be something that's not actually like fully extent, but hear me out. I think for the longest while, we can all agree that there was a point where we learned politics and it was just so difficult, we could never understand it the first time. And if you are, maybe that was something you actually enjoyed and you really got engaged with. But for those who weren't that type of person, i.e. myself, I was like mad lost. I'm like, wait, how does this work? Like, how much seats does each party get? And like, what's the majority, minority? What is this like left and right? Like every time I heard about left and right, it just got so intense. People were like, oh my god, like you're right wing, you're left wing, like what's going on? Like those were the type of thing at a young age. I was so confused. I'm just like, look, I'm not even gonna dabble in that. I'm just gonna like stay away because I know that's something that I have no reason to talk about. And again, rightfully so. If you don't know what is happening, you should take the time to educate yourself and really understand, what these conversations are being talked about. But as I was mentioning, like we at a point didn't know that much. But once we did, we understood. And for me, what I understood is that there's really two sides of the scale. There's left and there's right. There really isn't a in between. And society has come to the point where, because information is being like dispersed so much and pushed everywhere, and everyone's ideologies, although everyone has the freedom of speech, is now being dictated and in a way where social norms are taking advantage of, like, this is how you should think and this is how you should behave. It's come to a point where like you need to make a choice, whether it's you as the individual, just normal in general public, or someone like Annamie Paul. So I kind of felt like when she stepped in, that was everyone on the opposite side. All the political parties, all the different leaders kind of walked in up to her and said, you have to make a choice. Are you on this side or are you on that side? That's kind of how I see it. Again, I'd be throwing the most outlandish things, but I feel like that's something that I could honestly see in real life. Because politics isn't something like community work. Those are two different realms. Obviously, with community work, there's more connection and relationships that are more like, stronger to the point where like you can call these people family, to the people you work with. Like you can see these people down the streets. It's like, hey, I see my colleagues down from, work. I just saw them there. Like you can really call these people out because you know them. You guys are tight. It's inclusive. But politics is a whole different realm. No one's really going for the whole family vibe. Like no, like because you have to run a country. So it's strictly like we have to do this. We can't be off topic. We got to be on the ball. So to kind of paint down the picture and everything. So Annamie Paul, she resigned from the Green Party of Canada, and there were reports, from what I heard, that she was bullied out of politics, or that's what they're kind of phrasing it. Now, I'm not gonna be skeptical. Like, just one thing I would like to be careful about. It's how the media personifies certain narratives. So, like, when I saw that, I was like, I didn't go crazy, like, oh my God, like, that's crazy, or like, oh, I knew it. I was just kind of like, okay, well, let's evaluate it. I mean, you could say she was bullied out, but at the same time, was she ever being picked on in the first place? I mean, let's keep it a buck. I mean, I remember watching that English debate on YouTube, and like, it seemed that any time she spoke, none of the party leaders were even threatened. Usually, like in a debate, you have like again, and if you see a classic debate, someone might say a point, they may throw a couple of 1-2 shots at a person, and like they'll get the bickering, they'll get right back and forth, the jibs and jabs and everything. When I watched that, I felt like when Annamie talked, no one interrupted her, and it wasn't the sense like, oh wow, like she's speaking so well, like they're hearing it from the heart. And again, I can't really go and really tell you what those party leaders were thinking. I can't tell you what O'Toole, Trudeau, Blanchet, and Singh were thinking about. But what I kind of got from the vibe was they don't really see her as a threat. So they're like, why interrupt her? She's going to speak from the heart. Because like I said, she doesn't have that political background, so she doesn't know what it means to be in these types of debates and really go at it with these types of people. She doesn't know. So she's going to speak more from the heart because, again, a lot of her promises for her platform was about having an inclusive society, helping out those in the communities. And, of course, that's everyone's, promise for their platform. But she was more into that. Like, she was more with the community spirit. So whether it was her sharing stories of certain people or really speaking to within the society's perspective, using her voice to speak their narratives and their complaints and issues, which was cool, but it kind of lacked conviction. It kind of lacked like, okay, this just bypassing all that. I am gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. This is how I'm gonna do it. And obviously, there's gonna be times I'm gonna get dirty with it, but that's part of the role. I felt like there wasn't no sense of that when she spoke. So when the leaders kind of probably had that sense, they thought, okay, well, if she's not gonna come with that much, tenacity and conviction, it's like, why am I gonna interrupt her? Like, let her speak. Like there was at a point when even when Blanchet from the Parti Québécois was talking, you heard bickering. But whenever she spoke, it was just silent. They're like, let her speak. She ain't really got nothing that's gonna like really hit us home. Nothing impactful. So bullied out of politics? I don't think so. I just don't think she was really viewed to be seen as like a threat or like a legitimate candidate from the other party. So I have this article here, and I would like for to just go over it with you guys again. This is something that's been on my mind for the past couple of days. I did see this, and I was just kind of like very interesting. That's what kind of got me the motivation for this. So I'm not gonna read everything. I'm not, because we're gonna be here for a while. But I just want to give like the little gist, a little overview breakdown. So, Annamie Paul is resigning. The embattled Green Party leader announced Monday that she started the process of withdrawing from the role, calling her less than a year at the helm of the party the worst period in her life. Now that's kind of strong. I mean, if she really said that, then okay. But if not, I mean, again, this is just classic media, and now they want to manipulate content and information to really get those grabs and those stories. Paul's decision to step down comes on the heels of the party's initiating a review of her leadership given the results of last Monday's federal election. So this was published on the 27th of September, so again, it would be a week prior to the actual election. Paul said that when the review of her leadership launched this past weekend, she asked herself whether she had it in her to continue in the job, knowing she'd be facing an uphill battle. And this is what she said, and I quote, "I just don't have the heart for it. I just will not spend any more time focused on political games as opposed to public policy, which is what I entered politics for in the first place, particularly at a time when it so was needed." So there you have it. It's like I mentioned before, like she was a person that didn't want to deal with all the political drama, the propaganda. Like honestly, like she even addressed it in some of her like speakings, whether it's the English debates or all the different times she went to different cities, different places in Canada. That was what she was trying to address. She's like, I'm trying to break the mold. And it's like I mentioned prior about the Forbidden Door. You have a choice. It's either you stay on one side or the other side. And usually it's left or right. And even with the political parties, it's left or right. Despite you have like a multitude of parties. You have liberals. You have the conservatives, NDP, Green Party, Québécois, the People Party. There's still like two sides to it. And I'm pretty sure each party chooses a specific side they want to represent or how they want to proceed with certain, operations. And Annamie was one of the very few politicians who walked in here and said, I don't want to choose any side. I don't even want to bring us together in a sense like that. I'm trying to break this nonsense, this political nonsense and all the different games at it. And we need to do better as a whole. Like she was the first one that was trying to break the narrative, break the mold of it. So again, she kind of justified it. Again, she was dealing with public policy, something that she kind of got into the first place. And she's like, you know what? I just feel like I don't have the heart, which she said. And like I told you, politics is different to public policy or community work. Because here's the thing, public policy, sure, you have a voice, but that's one voice of probably many other voices in a room. because not only one person can deal with making policies and distribute them, and same for like anything when it comes to public affairs. Like politics, yes, there's a team, but there's also times where you're the party leader, you have to establish that authority. You have to establish that will that, hey, like I'm here and this is what we need to do and this is how we have to handle certain things. She wasn't that. And it's not her fault. It's not her fault. I'm going to get to that later on. But just kind of move on. In the 2021 federal vote, Paul failed to win a seat or grow the Green seat count in the House of Commons. And like that just goes to show. That just goes to show that it really just stung. I think there was at a point it was mentioned that she was struggling like to get support right here in Toronto. Like I think she was supposed to go out in other places, but she had to do like a second like speak right here in Toronto just to get more support. So if she could even like gather any attraction here, it just went to show that like it was not looking good for her. It just wasn't. And it became a domino effect to certain things. You know, her own party was just doubting her. People were like, is she really the right leader? Especially how before they had another woman in Elizabeth May, who, you know, a lot of people talked about before. And then you go from Elizabeth May to Annamie Paul. And again, you saw the huge difference, the huge gap between. And again, I think if you guys didn't know, one of the presidents even defected from the party to go to the Liberals because of what happened with the Israeli and Palestinian conflict as well, especially from the comments of Paul. So everything wasn't working well for her at the time being. And I think it was because, again, she was really sticking to the value of she wasn't trying to fall into that position of like, I'm going to fall and into the realm of like political games and like different tactics and that. No, I'm just going to win it by just being like the leader that I am from my personal experience. And I'm not saying you need to get dirty, but sometimes when you're aware of these certain things, you're able to like counteract it by still being like having that political grittiness. I felt like she didn't really have that at the point. So again, that's kind of been an overview. What my point really is that for those who step in this forbidden door, like I mentioned before, who don't really understand that, again, on the other side, you must make a choice. You have to make a choice. It's either left or right. That's kind of how big the narrative is. Because it's much easier to tell it in terms of politics. You can't be like, oh, we have this party. Oh, we also have this party. Oh, but we have an extra two parties. And you can evaluate all that. They're like, no. There's two sides. There's left and right. This one side has its values. This other side has its other values. And its main representatives, and you guys see it, is the liberals and conservatives. I say it every single year or any time it comes around. It's liberals versus conservatives. It's never anyone else. Like how long has the NDP been here? How long have they been here? And you can't really even look at them and say they're a legitimate third threat. And it's funny that I mentioned that because we talk about Annamie Paul, someone who's a black woman, a minority, and then you look at Jamit Singh, who's also minority. At the time when he came in as the leader in 2017, he was making a lot of noise. So many people are like, oh my God, like, you know, probably could be that instrument of change into the political government. He could do something different. But again, it's been painted as the narrative it needs to be these two. There's no other. As you've seen in Canada's history, you haven't seen any other party. We know Trudeau and his family's history, and the Conservatives as well. There's bad blood on both sides, literally. So why would you change up the narrative to make it more convoluted and tricky, or you could just keep it simpler about, okay, it's left and right. And if you are asking questions about, like, you know, what about the NDP, the Green Party, it's like, oh, they kind of fall under these sides, under, you know, the more main parties. Because that's just how it is. That's how it works. Because imagine if you don't know politics, And now you have to learn about every single party without really having any simplicity. Did I say that right? Simplicity. There we go. Without having any simplicity to it, it becomes tricky. It becomes too much. And again, I mentioned this before when I did, my episode breaking about the process of like how should we approach this election. I said it. For those who don't know about anything about politics, those are the most dangerous people. Because this is what I believe. One who doesn't know about politics has more influence to an outcome of an election than to someone who does know what's happening. Just take this example. Imagine you're at a buffet, basically, or even better yet, like a fast food restaurant. Like when you walk in there and you're like, oh, just give me my usual. Like you know what's up. You know what's good. You know what's not. It's like I'm not really having this. Whatever, cool. And then maybe someone who walks into a fast food restaurant has no clue what they serve, doesn't know if the food is good, doesn't really done the research, and then it becomes to a point where it's like it's a wild card. They can choose anything because it's like, oh, I can go for this, but maybe majority of people are like, oh no, that choice, no, it's not good, or maybe I shouldn't go for this. It's like, oh no, go for that. That's the popular choice. Should I go for that one? Most people don't really view it, but some people say it's okay. It becomes too much. And those who don't really take the time to understand, they have much more of an impact than those who really actually look at the parties, the different promises, their platform. And it's crazy. You would assume that despite each individual having one single vote, that there's more power in the vote than those who are not paying attention than to those who are. So I find it weird that the narrative of left and right has been here for so long, but at the same time, why would it change? Why would they try to go with something different? They wouldn't. They would actually just stick to that notion because it's much more simpler. And honestly, that is just the truth. So, for Annamie Paul, someone who has done a lot of work in public affairs and just public policy all around, steps in to the realm of politics with not little to no experience. And she has a choice, but she decides, you know what? I don't want to make that choice. I'm not going to let you make that choice for me. I'm going to tell you how I want to run this party, how I want things to change. So if you're not willing to make that choice, those sides will tell you, well, you can just get out of here then, because you're not going to get what you want. And you're not going to try to stop us because it's a numbers game. It's strength in numbers. Now, if Annamie Paul was part of a party that had more, I guess, support in numbers, maybe an NDP, I'm not saying it would have succeeded, but it probably would have got more people to listen. But I felt like that wouldn't make no difference. Because again, what she was trying to do kind of went against the entire picture of how politics should be explained to the general public. It did. So I felt like she was not going to win that bout regardless. So they're like, hey, you don't want to make a choice? All right. Then you can get out. We're trying to give you the option and you don't want to make that choice, then fine, you can leave. But don't come back. Because we'll rip you to shreds. Yeah. I felt like that's where I came up with the concept, or I guess I took the concept of the forbidden door. It's like not really forbidden, like we'll let you in, but there's this certain ideology that you need to understand that works around our door, behind our doors. And if you're not behind it, then you are then from that point forbidden because you will never get what you want. That's politics for you. That's politics for you. So, obviously, what are some of the factors? What are some of the players that make this possible? Obviously, political parties, maybe they'll target major locations, that certain political parties are going for. So, again, for Annamie Paul, the Green Party, maybe The conservative says, hey, you know what? She's going to be trying to go for this district. Let's make sure we double down there. Or maybe, she's going for this district. Let's go for another place that, would probably stop her in her tracks. Mess up her thing. A lot of people will probably look into the map and okay, where are they heading? Where are they heading? All right, which ones are important? Nah, we're not going to focus on that one. You even see the American election. For Biden and Trump, they may be they're focusing on specific places, which rightfully so, because you look at your audience, you look at the demographic, and okay, who has the most supporters here? And it's okay, we're going to target those people first because they're our main priorities. But then there's points okay, you know what? All right, let's get freaky. Where's the Green Party going? Oh, they're going there. Okay, you know what? Let's send a couple people there, just to take a little bit, just a little shin kick right there. That's a very plausible thing to happen. Another example is attacking those party leaders during political debates. It's like I mentioned before. I mean, I don't like Trudeau, but you can tell that people saw him as a threat. Obviously, O'Toole, Singh, even Blanchet, they were triple teaming this man like he was Kobe. R.I.P. to Kobe, by the way. But no, they were on him. They were on him, and they were not going to stop. And Trudeau recognized that. But like I said, when Annamie Paul spoke, nothing. No one was trying to get her. Maybe there was one or two things, but it was short-lived. Short-lived. It didn't have any impact. I think there was a point where Trudeau and Paul went at it, but it was 5 seconds. There was a point that Singh and Trudeau were yelling so much, I was afraid that one of them was going to lose their voice. That's how bad it was at a point. So, again, there's so many different variables in how political parties could play an impact. And again, I'm just speaking based on this federal election. Obviously, it could be not just on the election, but maybe you want to do in politics in just other realms as well. Then yeah, that becomes an issue. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because of what just happened recently with Annamie Paul. I felt what happened to her was really sad. I felt she didn't deserve it. Again, it's not her fault. You couldn't really prepare for a snap election like that. So even though she just came in last year, it was supposed to happen next year. So I'm not saying a 1 year later would make a difference. But who knows? It could have. It could have really made a difference in some way, some form. But again, she didn't have that much political experience, so it just kind of showed at the end. But now I want to get to the juicy part, because I think this is where the tides turn. As much as I say that, again, political parties are kind of one of the main reasons, or the side of politics where they kind of make you force your choice of are you going to be this and that, especially for someone that you're coming in, regardless experience. Maybe that much of politics, maybe you have a wide range of political experience or not. They're going to let you know from the beginning, hey, welcome, but you need to decide. What's it going to be? As much as I want to say that, I also want to argue, are we also the reason for the forbidden door? Are we? Is it society ourselves? I mean, it's like I mentioned before. When it comes to just really understanding what's happening in the world of politics, some of us know, and then others we don't. We'll be mad confused. And again, our voice during election time matters so much. Because then it comes to a point where okay, am I going to vote for this person because I actually have evaluated the situation, I've read all the promises, I've heard all the critiques, and this is how I want to go with my vote? Or am I just going to go for this party because most people are? The social norms in society overall has been so strong that it's come to a point where people and just their freedom to think is kind of just being removed at some points. I feel so many people are kind of just going off of what other people are thinking. It's a dangerous thing to see. It really is a dangerous thing to see. But I have to ask if that has to be a reason of why the forbidden door is such a thing, in my opinion. I mean, again, it could be a hot take. You could view it as a hot take. But honestly, I see it different. I really do. But I really want to ask another question. Should the forbidden door, in this sense, I guess, between politics, and community work. Just to clarify, this forbidden door is basically a divided line between politics and community. Because when you look at the political economy, let's be honest, you have the state, you have the governments, you have those like leaders in representative democracy, and then you have the community, the nonprofit organizations, those who are kind of home to those closely. And I think regardless what everyone wants to believe, like, oh, we could establish a utopian society, there's always going to be discrepancies in politics and community. There's always going to be. It's going to be there. What you don't want is for those discrepancies to enlarge into the fact where it becomes where there's no trust, there's no communication. Like both sides are just not really given any sense of like, hey, we are trying to like understand, or we're trying to really have a stronger relationship. And that becomes a problem as well. So I would like to rephrase the question about not should it be removed, but more of like, how far does the forbidden door go? Or in terms of like, when should the forbidden door be applied, or who should it be applied to? Because I don't think it should be applied to everyone. In fact, I think there should be more times where that forbidden door is bust down open. It's just completely open. Because I believe both sides can learn from something. And I really think it's a crucial thing that could really state what Annamie is trying to like advocate for, an inclusive society. So let me start with politics. For all you political leaders out there who think you understand what's happening in communities, you understand what is going on and everything, that you could just come in here with your regulations, your legislations, your policies, and everything be okay. Stop. We don't want to establish that, and you need to understand. You don't understand the community. You don't. No matter how much you pass by thinking you will never know. You will never know the lived experiences that we share. You will never understand the trials, the issues, the disparities that we see every single day. But you know what? We do want to do better. We want to make sure that you guys understand. And the only way you can understand is if we teach you. Now listen, I don't want to say that we have to teach you all the time, but it's a two-way street. We need to teach you, but you also want to voluntarily ask questions. Don't just assume that we can teach you and then you just go on and you just do whatever you want. No. We need to make sure we're on the same page, that you understand our pain, so that way you're able to put it into a course of action and fix those problems, fix those issues in the community, in society overall. Ask questions. Make sure that you're listening. Make sure you're actually wanting to write down these things. Communicate. Like I said, no matter what you put on a piece of paper, on a laptop, whatever, it won't make a difference. You need to be engageful. You need to be engaged. You need to be locked in. Because that way we can communicate. That way we can talk. That way we can have trust. That's how it works here. That's how it should work. That's how it needs to work. That's how it must work. But it goes the same way for community. For those who want to, get into politics, I feel like there has to be levels of ground where you need to familiarize yourself before you get into the heavy lifting. So I guess, yes, this falls back on, politicians. For those who want to step in your realm, assist them, help them, make them know better. That's what really sad. That's what made me sad about Annamie Paul. She stepped in, and it seemed that no one in her party even wanted to really take the chance to say, okay, look, I know you're going through a lot, And this snap election did come out of nowhere. We're going to do our very best to help. And again, I can't speak for anyone on that team, but it did kind of feel like they weren't really trying to like have her back on anything. They weren't trying to help her or really get through, because again, it does a lot on your mental health as well. Like for her to even say it, and again, we don't know, but if it's what the news article says, for her to say it was the worst period of her life, then something had to give in the sense that no one was really hearing her out or anyone was trying to help her at that moment. So I think it's important that politicians should take that effort to help those who are trying to step into that realm, step into that field. So that way, when they come, it won't be so pressuring to be like, oh, I need to catch up, or oh my God, like I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't feel like I have the support. Politics is cutthroat. It is cutthroat. It don't care about your feelings, okay? It do not give a damn. It will take your feelings, it will eat it, spit it out, stomp on it, piss on it, and then bury it in the grave. That's how it works. Anyone who wants to do politics, listen, I commend you. And listen, I got a mouth, but I don't know if my mouth could be controlled under those type of premises. I don't believe that. But it works like that. And for community as well, I understand the history and the context of the lack of trust in politics. And that's not our fault. It's the government's fault. But we also want to make sure that we're being accountable and we're doing our best to not give up. Now, again, you may disagree with what I'm about to say. We as a community, whatever community you represent, have fought so hard to just get a voice. Just hear our voice to be heard. Just something for an echo to be heard from the government. And it becomes an ongoing battle that from generation after generation, from community to community, from one voice to another, it becomes slowly white noise. And so apropos how it's white noise and how it's become this white nationalistic view that Canada has held on for decades. But we need to keep pushing. We need to keep pushing. I talked about community work, about working within the community or working for the community. But one thing I also want to mention is how community is working for one main goal, one main objective, and that is to be heard by the state, to be heard by the government, to be heard by those politicians. Because it doesn't just stop within our community. It comes throughout the whole platform, the whole stage of Canada. And we're trying to establish that voice. And again, it becomes hard to the point where we feel like giving up. Whether you're a business and you need financial support, whether you're a small initiative that wants to get going, whether you want to address stuff like gun violence, gang affiliation, drugs, there's so much. Where you talk about universal health care, universal basic income, housing, gentrification, there's so much. So for those who feel like it's just not happening, it's not going to, be impactful, don't think that, because there is people who still want this to be heard. And it's our job to make sure we keep mentioning these issues. But again, it takes two to tango. It has to be the governments that are willing to listen, but not just listen, but to actually become vulnerable. Take accountability for the stupid actions they've done, because it is stupid. They need to be put in a place where they're so vulnerable that when they rise up, they're able to build together with us. Only then we can really say there is change in the political economy and society. So to answer the question, should the forbidden door be removed? No. But I think if we are talking about who does it apply to, it should be applied to those who really don't understand or is not willing to listen. To those who don't want to make change, to those who don't want to engage, communicate, and actually solve the issues, then you keep them the hell away out of both sides. Whether it's a politician who doesn't care about the community, do not let them in the community. Whether it's someone from the community who doesn't really know what politics is and doesn't seem to understand and won't understand and will not try to understand. So when they go in and they try to help the community, they just don't know what to do. Leave them out. Just leave them out. Leave them out. Just let them be. But should it be removed? No. Because I think there needs to be division. I'm not saying everyone needs to be all the time holding their hands singing Kumbaya. No. There are rules. There is law. There is distinction. You should have that, but it should become to the point where both sides are at each other's throats. And we're just on this staggering line. And we're doing nothing. It can't be like, what's the best analogy I can say? It can't be like we're just on a treadmill. No matter how fast we're running on, how much energy we're putting, we're just stuck in the same place. And the speed keeps increasing to the point you burn out. And when it's time to go for that another run, you just don't want to because you already know what's going to happen. And the times that we're controlling the treadmill, it's actually the government that's controlling us to that breaking point. Well, we're both done. We're both done. Because it's basically in the sense, I'm getting burned out, and then the treadmill's like, well, you're burning me out because you're going so heavy. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. But overall, I just want to say to Annamie Paul, I'm very sorry for what happened. To be very honest, if Annamie Paul runs for something small, like maybe mayor or something, I truly believe she would have that in the bag. I just felt like from the beginning, she just wasn't the person. She wasn't. And it's sad coming from me, a black person. Wanted to see my black people succeed. Wanted to see that. But she just wasn't that person. She just wasn't it. But I wish her all the luck in her career, where she wants to stay in politics or maybe wants to go back to public policy, public affairs. That is okay. Wish her all the luck in that. But that is about it, guys. Thank you. If you made it to the end of this, thank you guys for listening. I know that there may have been some things you agreed with, maybe some things you disagree, but that's okay. We're just here to have these conversations. If you have anything you want to say, then, if you're listening to this, maybe just shout me out on Instagram at the Safe Room Podcast. Let me know what you think, because I'm always open. I always love to have these conversations, regardless if it's something that most people agree with or most people disagree with, whether it's a majority view or minority view in terms of ideologies. I'm always here. I love to talk. I love to have these conversations. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah, that's about it. One last thing. We are approaching the Safe Room's 50th episode. 50 episodes, man. It's crazy. It's really crazy, and it'll be taking place October 15th. I am planning something huge. I can't really give the details yet. I've got in contact with a lot of people, and hopefully once I get a couple of responses, hopefully all responses very soon, ASAP, I will let you guys know what is going on in terms of that. I might be announcing other things in the meantime, because it's not just this one thing. I have other stuff as well, so don't worry. Second thing, guys, don't forget, I'm an ambassador for Lift Life. I feel like you guys keep forgetting, man. Do I have to keep reminding you? I really don't want to go on Instagram and start posting these things, but I feel like I have to. Yes, I'm an ambassador for Lift Life Apparel. If you're looking for stuff that's for fitness, just to get yourself back into shape, Lift Life has everything. You guys can go use the referral link on my Instagram bio, and make sure you guys use the discount code, the Safe Room, to get 10% off your purchase. Again, listen, man, it's getting cold outside. It is getting cold outside, and you may not be able to work out the gym. So, like, maybe you could have your Lift Life gear, working out at home, posting on the gram. That'd be great, man. That'd be great. And be able to, use that code, the Safe Room. Like, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. So, make sure you guys tune into that. Make sure you guys go click my link in my Instagram bio. I will leave it in the description for this. And also, the big announcement. I feel like I come on. It's approaching. October 15th. The big announcement. The same day the 50th episode's happening, the big announcement is dropping. It can't get better than this. And I still have something in the plans for October 15th. October 15th about to be a special day. It about to be a banger. Okay? But that big announcement, you guys better be watching that, okay? I'm not gonna tell you twice. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Safe Room. Thank you for just being part of this journey with me. We're about to hit 50 episodes, so get ready. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys next time.